If this movie had come out in the 90s, it definitely would have been called Talk to the Hand. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. As part of my coverage of the 2023 Sundance Film Festival, today I'm going to be talking about the 2022 Australian supernatural horror film, Talk to Me, which will be released in theaters on July 28th. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all that extra content. Talk to Me stars Sophie Wilde, Alexandra Jensen, and Joe Bird, and was directed by Danny and Michael Philippou. It tells the story of a group of teens who communicate with spirits using an embalmed hand, only to discover that their game has severe consequences. I love attending film festivals. TIFF, Sundance, great experiences, and a chance to see a ton of movies. Each festival is a little different, but these bigger festivals are usually pretty overrun with dramas. Lots of biopics, based on a true story movies, and emotionally taxing films that leave you feeling completely drained by the end. Now, I have nothing against these types of movies. I like dramas. I like character studies and emotionally hard-hitting movies. But when you're watching 4 to 5 films per day for 2 weeks straight, it's easy for the heaviness of all that to become too much. So, at these festivals, I tend to gravitate towards the midnight or midnight madness films, the festival programming block dedicated to horror, thrillers, and other unclassifiably weird films. Not only do I genuinely enjoy these types of movies, but watching a 90-minute genre film is also a refreshing mental break in the midst of a film festival. So at Sundance this year, I actually watched all 8 films in the midnight program. Some were great, some less so, but I have to say, when I was preparing for the festival and reading the premise blurbs, 7 of the films felt like they made sense as Sundance movies. That 8th film, Talk to Me, puzzled me a bit. It sounded like one I would enjoy, but a teen-centric evil spirits movie didn't strike me as the type of film that would be accepted to Sundance, so I was extra curious. When looking at the premise of this film, it would be easy to say that it's derivative, and to an extent, you could probably reasonably argue that point. It's a movie that focuses on a group of teens who recklessly try to communicate with spirits as part of an ill-advised party game. A lot of these teen characters make stupid horror movie decisions, and everything has a bit of a cautionary tale vibe at first. There's no denying that it's a very familiar premise that we've seen countless times in horror movies over the years. I mean, we're basically just swapping out a Ouija board for a creepy embalmed hand, right? Not entirely. Although it has its familiar aspects, Talk to Me offers up a new take on the traditional spirit communication teen horror movie. Yes, the kids are often pretty dumb, but there is some emotional motivation for a few of the characters. It's not a theme that's exceptionally well explored, but there is a dealing with grief undercurrent to everything that adds enough heart to the story where you aren't rooting for the stupid, annoying teenagers to die, like in many similar films. Instead, this movie ends up being a more interesting tale than expected. It's a creepy, bloody ghost story that blurs the line between life and death in order to take a look at something sinister in between. And speaking of sinister, this is a brutal movie. Again, thinking back to other teen party horror movies, there's kind of an expected standard when it comes to the gore. Most movies like this are PG-13, which kinda makes sense, because that way teens can actually go see a movie about characters their age, but it does restrict things. Blood is minimal or humorously campy, intense moments are cut away from before you see anything. There's kind of this declawed feeling oftentimes, but that's not the case with Talk to Me. This is very much an R-rated film, and it's surprisingly gruesome. It sort of lulls you in with some minor gore early on, but this movie hits a point where things take a very sudden, intense, gory turn. It was shocking in the moment. There's some serious body horror here, and really grisly practical effects that'll probably have you squirming in your seat a bit. It's really well done, but it's grimy and nasty and uncomfortable. And where most other similar films would cut away, this one shows you everything. Likely more than you want to see, but it's hard to look away. Although brutally gory teen-centric films aren't super common, gory horror movies are out there in large numbers. So horror aficionados have probably seen more disturbing things than this film has to offer. But something that's refreshing about this movie is that it doesn't lean on its gore as a crutch. I mean, I think we've all seen films that mistakenly think throwing a lot of blood and guts around is the same thing as making a scary movie. But it takes more than that, and Talk to Me is a film that recognizes that. This is a movie with a very heavy, creepy atmosphere. The visuals and fantastic sound design certainly help on this front, but this one manages to craft this deep sense of foreboding. Even during the few moments of levity, there's still this uneasiness settled like a fog around everything. It's a haunting ghost story which has this creepiness throughout, but also has shocking and scary moments that are bound to stick with you. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number 1 is the gore. I gotta admit, I was not expecting this to be as brutally gruesome as it is. It does have some fun practical effects, like the hand itself and the seance visitors, but much of the gore and effects are more mean-spirited. This has got some grisly body horror that comes about pretty suddenly, so it's extra shocking. It's really impressive looking, but it's also nasty and grimy too. This film doesn't shy away from lingering on these moments, and even though it's been 6 months since I watched this movie at Sundance, there are a few images from this film that are just ingrained in my head. The second pro is the atmosphere. Blood and gore can be really good in a horror film, but they aren't things that automatically make something scary, which is a concept that a lot of films have struggled with over the years. Talk to Me is not one of those films. Yeah, it's got some gruesome gore, but it doesn't rely on it or use it as a crutch. Instead, it's used to enhance the creepy and incredibly uneasy atmosphere that's built right from the start. It's a dark movie, so even during the fun teen party scenes, it's got this tension and ever-present anticipatory bad feeling to it. It's spooky and haunting, punctuated by genuinely frightening moments, thanks in large part to some top-notch sound design. On the con side, my only issue is the familiarity. It's a relatively minor issue, because the film does subvert some expectations and deviate a bit from some of the norms, but it does possess a lot of the things that other similar supernatural horror films have. This leads to the common horror movie issue of having characters who make really dumb decisions, and it's a film that suffers from a decent amount of story predictability, as well as some unclear rules and logic for the supernatural elements of the story. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Talk to Me or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Talk to Me 4 out of 5 paws. It's a gruesome and creepy new take on the traditional spirit communication teen horror movie. It's got its inevitable familiar components, but it's also full of brutal practical effects, grief-tinged heart, and some genuinely skin-crawling chills. I would recommend Talk to Me to anybody looking for a strong horror film. With its dumb teenagers, evil spirits, and relatively short runtime, it feels like a bit of a throwback to any number of similar communicate with the dead supernatural horror flicks, but the chilling atmosphere and dark, at times mean-spirited tone make this movie more viscerally impactful. It's a brutal and gruesome film, so be aware that there's quite a bit of gore. It's over the top, but not done comedically, so it does take on a haunting griminess that'll stick with you. If you liked Talk to Me, I would recommend Flatliners. This is another supernatural horror that features characters taking things too far. Rather than teen seances, it's about med school students intentionally flatlining to experience otherworldly things. But as you could probably guess, this has some unintended consequences. If you want another dark, almost mean-spirited movie about grief, you should check out Hereditary. It's more of a slow burn than Talk to Me, but it does feature siblings and some shocking moments of gore. If you want another spirit communication film, you can't go wrong with The Evil Dead. It too features a group of friends being terrorized by unleashed evil spirits, and features some good, albeit very campy, practical effects. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Talk to Me? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie that involves a seance? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.